So sometimes people could use it as an excuse. You know, I'm just that way. I can't change.
Yes, I've heard.
But you can make those incremental things and make.
Well, we are back in the kitchen with our kitchen couples. We've got Dan and Danielle and Mike and Diane.
All right. Well, relational dowry. That's kind of an interesting
Never
way
heard
to put
it said that way.
Yeah. You know, what are you bringing into your marriage? You know, it's not cows or chickens.
No.
In my case, it might be a turkey. Referring to me. Or maybe it's an unhealthy idea, how to resolve conflict that you learned in your childhood, or how to handle money. There could be a whole host of different type of these things in your dowry that you bring into marriage. And it could be positive or negative habits as well that you've learned. And so, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts when you heard that?
Well, initially, I'll jump in. Initially, when I heard it, I was like, in my family, when you were resolving conflict, the temperature got high sometimes, and it was okay. It was almost expected. And when I started to date Diane, I can sometimes, like, I'm generally a kind of gentle guy, but when I start to talk, right, when you start to get in, I can sound like I'm on a football field, right? So that's and I've really tried to work to tame that. Tone is so important. It's not always what you say, but how you say it.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. I know for me, growing up in my family, coming from a big family, but I did, like my dad, he was a drinker. And so I would see he and my mom, he would have too much to drink, they would get into an argument, and I would see those things, and I remember always saying to myself, I don't ever want that in my house. I don't ever want my husband and I to argue. I don't want to have, conflict. I don't want to marry anyone that drink. This whole list of things that I didn't want to take into my marriage. And so one of the things that when Mike and I got together, I said to him, I don't like arguing. I don't like conflict. I'm not good with those things, right? And so we've always made it a point to try our best not to get in these, big, heated, ugly confrontations, because first of all, it gets you nowhere.
True.
Right? Just use your words. Use your words, and there's a gentle way to use your words. If you do that, things are so much better.
Yeah.
Right? If you can learn to do those things and do them properly.
Yeah. The whole idea of the relational dowry is basically, it's a fancy way to say baggage. Our baggage that we carry, and sometimes we think that we have to carry it forever. But I've been actually reading a lot of brain science books lately, and in that I've been kind of learning the science of the brain and how it can actually change. We can actually be our own little microsurgeons and change the way we thought, which means, we're in the captain's seat, we decide. So in our marriage, we don't have to say, well, it's always been that way. Well, I came from a negative house. I came from this situation. It's just, that's how we are. We can actually create a new normal for us, a Dan and Danielle version, a Mike and Diane, an Ann and Ron version of taking the good from our past and maybe editing some of the things that weren't so good and weren't serving us well, and then create the new normal. We don't have to be stuck in the past. We can change our future.
Right. Even if you came from a dysfunctional past in some way, that you get to set the tone for moving forward for what your family. Let's say we've always been. You're talking about not being we're not being victims. We're not claiming that we're victims. Our frames of reference and our family of origin are very different. We've mentioned that, like the first season. I remember mentioning that, but I mean, there's a beauty in marrying somebody who's different than you. God gives us somebody who's very different than us. Danielle and I are very different from each other in some ways. Like there's a lot of what you might say is incompatibility, but it's not about incompatibility. It's how you make yourselves compatible in the middle of that. And God gives us someone very different than ourselves, which gives us a chance to become more like Christ. Because we have to coexist and live and learn to be less selfish. Because marriage is an exercise in learning to be less selfish. And some people think, a marriage is supposed to, make me happy, and this person is supposed to, like all the things I like. We're going to be soulmates and everything. Well, marriage isn't about first and foremost about being happy. Hopefully, it's going to make you happy. But marriage, first and foremost, is about being made to be more like Christ. And your marriage is supposed to kill you. It's supposed to kill you. It's supposed to kill the selfishness in you. And
sometimes it feels that way.
And working through those things makes us more like Christ. So yes. Dowries, we're very different, but there's some beauty in that. Rather than butt heads, and rather than say, "Oh, I should go find somebody else." No, you work through that, and it makes you more like Christ.
So I guess the question would be, practically speaking, how do we do that? Like, we all realize that yes, we bring in baggage, we bring in these dowries.
Can you change, or is it baked into the wedding cake, so to speak? Can the leopard change his spot? So sometimes people could use it as an excuse. I'm just that way. I can't change.
Yes, I've heard.
But you can make those incremental things and make sure.
Like Dan was saying, a wedding or a marriage is all about growing together. You're not going to be the same person you were the day you got married as you are 30 years down the road. You're growing together in the same direction. So give grace to each other. You're both learning how to do this us thing well, and it's going to take a minute to kind of get in a good rhythm. And so give each other grace. Live empathetically. Try to see it from your partner's point of view, and then remove emotion from it. So, if this is the way that we've always done it, my parents always did it this way, and if you're called out on it, and even it's not healthy, you might get defensive and say, but no, my parents always did it this way. Just remove the emotion out and say, okay, we want to live our marriage out in the best Christ-centered way possible so that we can grow together in a good way.
And give each other the right to be wrong.
Good.
Give each other the right
and
to
the
be
space
wrong.
and the
It's
freedom
okay.
and the safety.
That's right.
And I will say one important thing. When we are inside ourselves and in our marriage, we can often see an outside source can help you see what you want to change.
Bring some clarity.
Absolutely.
Okay, good discussion, guys.
Clarity here.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
And stay with us. More Better Us coming up.
Yay.
Hey friends, we really hope you're enjoying the marriage conversations here on our Better Us YouTube channel.
We have hundreds of more helpful marriage videos designed to give you hope and tools to make your marriage even better.
Right. And you can see just a few options we think you might like here and here. So keep exploring.
Oh, and make sure you subscribe by clicking here so you don't miss out on all the great marriage help we have coming your way all the time.